than the native, which is the native U.S. white third generation. Okay, so this is sort of the baseline here. You can see that many immigrant groups are doing better in terms of membership in white-collar professions even than the U.S. white. Okay, so I think that's important to keep in mind when you look at this too, that immigrants are not necessarily, when we're talking nationally at this period, immigrants are not necessarily worse off than whites. And we have in our mind this image that immigrants arrive and they're poor, and certainly by and large, immigrants, all things equal, are poorer than native-born, but not all things are equal. Some of the Russian Jews who arrive are more likely to be literate than native-born U.S. whites in this period. So keep that in mind. But on the question of whether it mattered or not, definitely did. Here's some data. Again, I put this in really as foreshadowing. This is along the same lines as the graph we saw on Wednesday of the income distribution. It has the same pattern that it starts in our current period, 1910, and goes forward, where I hope we get to by the end of the term. And like that graph, where we saw, if you remember, we saw very high income disparities, meaning the top 1% of income earners in the 1910s, followed a very high percentage of income, and it fell, and then it rose again. And I made the point that the current period we're looking more like Gilded Age. Similar patterns here, but what we're measuring here is the premium for a college graduation and high school graduation. So this, what we're showing here with the open dots, is the proportion higher earnings a person with a high school degree gets in 1910 versus 20 versus 30 versus somebody without a high school education. So it's fairly substantial, 40%, 45%. Notice it falls and then rises again, but doesn't rise to the same level, whereas the college graduation premium is high, which is really the point to remember. Education really matters. This is why it shows this graph, really motivating the idea that education mattered very much in 1910, and it also matters now, which again is why you're here. Yes? The spike in 1980, the reason that the way Golden and Katz described it is not a spike, but a change in the trend line, and this is a very interesting story. It is the story that Golden and Katz tell is that since the 1980s, actually since the since the 70s really, the proportion of Americans getting a college degree has not risen. It remains around 30 to 33%. And so as the economy changes and there's a higher demand for college degrees, but no greater supply per se, any greater in absolute numbers but not in proportion, that explains that you simply need more. And they tell a similar story here. The technology is, well, the depression here actually. They're telling a similar story. But this happened. The post-1980 story is a supply, mainly a supply research in the company of demand. Hopefully we'll have time to talk about it. I think that's a very interesting and important slide. But now getting further away from the lab, I wanted also to mention networks. Remember, we talked about individual adaptations, family adaptations are also adaptations that need to be spoken more broadly, that exist beyond the family. And some of these are evidence in chain migration. Billy Daniels spoke a lot about chain migration before. I haven't mentioned it much, but it's a very simple idea that people migrate when they know somebody who's migrated. I think we did mention it when we talked about the demographic transition, that stylized bump of immigration. But we see that in this period, 1/3 of immigrants arrived on prepaid tickets. And that's, again, evidence that immigrants are part of networks, that they are arriving and that they're saving money and sending for their friends and relatives and paying their tickets. And when they get here, they probably give them housing and help them find jobs. Immigrant organizations, we see the Raphael Society for German immigrants, Protection of Italian immigrants, Hebrew Immigration Aid Society, all of these societies formed around this time, and they would meet people at Ellis Island, and they, as we'll see, they, as the nativism issue heats up, there are nativist groups and nativist employees who are trying to cause trouble, and these groups are here to try to protect immigrants from them. They give advice on how to answer questions. For example, one of them that's particularly troubling is, do you have a job waiting for you? As we'll see later, you have to answer that in a very nuanced way because contract labor is outlawed. You cannot immigrate if you have a contract to work, and yet at the same time, you can't immigrate if you're likely to be a public charge. Ellis Island, they're supposed to separate both of those. It's typical, right? That's what Congress made both of those laws. Right? And so you had to. So these immigrant aid societies would advise immigrants to say something, vague enough that they have great prospects for finding a job, yet they don't actually have one contracted for already. Right? And they also prosecute swindlers occasionally too. Right? Beyond these, there are also boarding houses that we talked about already, and these job networks. I think we mentioned that when we were talking about Wagner. Here's another great quote. Now, if a Russian got his job in a shear department, he's looking for a buddy. A Russian buddy, he's not going to look for a Croatian buddy. And if he sees a boss looking for a man, he says, "Look, I have a good man," and he's picking out his friends. A Ukrainian department, a Russian department, a Polish department, and it was a beautiful thing in a way. And as I pointed out, it is a beautiful thing in a way, but it's also not a beautiful thing in a way if you're not Polish or Ukrainian or Croatian or Russian. The employers used the system quite a lot because it was efficient. It was very efficient for them because it made employees responsible for each other. If you recommended somebody, your reputation then was on the line. They had to perform. And when you read Suro, you'll see that this system still operates. This is a common story in places that hire a lot of immigrants. It's hard for, it's anyway for obvious reasons. Reasons quite efficient. But the outcome, let's see, the outcome can be seen from this table, and we can see that the polls are very successful with this. Example, the Austrian poll. The metal industry is where you want to be in Pittsburgh. This is where the pay is high. These are people who are making steel, right? And if you happen to be the right kind of poll, you've got a very good chance of getting here. These are unskilled jobs, so it's not a case that there's some cultural proclivity or that these people are likely to have a degree in metal making. These are unskilled jobs, and so it's surely most likely a network kind of effect. You see the cluster of polls here. I thought there was an Italian column here, but I guess there's not. And similarly, it's much tougher for Southern blacks. Not impossible, but certainly tougher. Blacks are much more concentrated in these service, transportation, less formal and lower paying positions. And the reason, as we went into, at least from Wagner's explanation, is that those hiring networks, the employers in the metal industry, they simply ask the poll, "You have a friend?" when they want to hire somebody, and the poll doesn't have any Southern-born black friends. All right. I didn't want to mention nationality. One of the interesting things about national identity is it is also an immigrant adaptation in that typically immigrants who arrive in this period, especially earlier, do not think of themselves as Italians or as Germans. Before 1870, there was no such thing as Italy or Germany. So they thought they were much more likely to think of themselves as from a certain village. And the northern Italian, the animosity between northern Italians and southern Italians was also well established. Everybody's got lots of animosities. But what happens is that once in the United States, it becomes these national identities form for a number of reasons. Possibly because Americans can't tell Spartans from Athenians, or Galician Jews from Lithuanian Jews, but also because there are common needs. When these groups get together, when people with a common language, for example, get land in the United States, it's to their advantage in such things as fraternal organizations. Fraternal organizations are founded in really large numbers, really surprisingly large numbers. They're an early form of insurance where they work. People get together and agree to pay a certain amount every month, and in return, they take care of of widows and of burials when bad things happen. But there are big gains for these organizations to grow. Right? If you only have 10 people, all of whom work in the same place, they're subject to the same kind of shocks. They're going to be unemployed at the same time. They may be killed in the same industrial accident. So you really want those to grow, and they do. And as they grow, they logically start at village level, and then they grow by merging with other organizations like that. And so pretty soon there's a Serbian National Union, a Slovenian Catholic, and so all of these things, which are the result of merging fraternal organizations. The ethnic enclave is yet another adaptation that goes beyond the family. This follows, in some sense, from the high home ownership rates. Since immigrants tend to own homes in high rates, they tend to be more stable, don't move as much. These obviously offer a source of opportunity for immigrants, your social opportunity in the form of marriage markets. As if you have taste for marrying people who speak your native language, you're more likely to find them if you live in an ethnic enclave. Economic opportunities for ethnic entrepreneurs can start businesses which either cater to or rely on ethnics. A good example here, again, is banks who want to make mortgage loans, for example. It's very helpful for them to operate in ethnic enclaves. And of course, it's an opportunity for new arrivals who can then get work without mastering English skills. Lower wages, but at least it's wages. Right? And finally, there are political opportunities from ethnic enclaves. And the principle of a political machine is very simple. That politicians use city resources, both legally and illegally, to provide services to a constituency who can be counted on to vote you into office again and again and again. The way these were usually organized would be there would be someone known as a ward healer who would be responsible for maybe a city block, maybe just a few buildings, and he or she would know what was going on there. He would know when people were sick or unemployed, and when there was a fire, the ward healer would be there with money to help people who lost their homes. And by helping them and then keeping track of them on voting day, they would be returned to power again and again. And in the process, of course, they enriched themselves handsomely. There's a courthouse that was built in New York City in the late 1860s that cost twice as much as Alaska, which was also purchased at that time. Huge amounts were spent on like $179,000 for a table and chairs. Yes? Voting is secret. There is certainly, it's by law secret. Was there corruption? Yes. I don't know the extent of it, but certainly progressives at this time thought it was. What progressives mainly objected to was, at least politically speaking, was fraudulent naturalization. They would naturalize people before their 5 years, and then apparently, depending on who you listen, they would bus them all around town to vote again and again and again. Since they're city bosses, right, they control the apparatus for counting votes. So they control the judges who do all the naturalization, and they control the people who collect the votes. They control the people who count the votes. So it's not that hard to stay in power. Think about it. But the concentration of immigrants helps. The fact that the immigrants are tightly held geographically. That, for example, in these places in New York City, these are large areas. Wards these assembly districts are on the order of 100,000 people, and so 76% might be foreign-born children. Right? Okay, so 2/3. You have 4 assembly districts in New York. They're 2/3 Jewish. Again, these are big areas. These would be much higher if we had the data were on smaller areas. The concentrations would be higher. But this is very helpful if you're running a machine because you don't need as many ward healers to keep track of people. You don't move that far. And if you do something, you do something for a neighborhood, you reach a lot more constituents. So it's a very handy thing. It fits well together. And this is this works for new immigrants. When you're poor and you're worrying about basic necessities, to vote, make an X on a piece of paper, that costs you nothing. But what you get in return is real valuable. So you definitely see these things working, and you can also see why they upset progressives in this era so much. But in terms of the morality, well, it depends. It's not entirely simple to say that they were bad. They really did do some good. They really were there with services for the poor that did not, that the city was not providing, that nobody was providing. But also there was certainly corruption. This is just a nice example of it here. This is from an earlier period than we're talking about. This would have been from probably the late 1870s. St. Patrick's Cathedral was finished in 1879, and that's what Archbishop McCloskey here is carrying. He's got a model of St. Patrick's Cathedral, and under his arm he's got a deed to the place, a deed to the land which the city granted him. And on this side, on the other side of the street, this is none other than William Marcy Tweed, and these other guys are identifiable as well. They're lesser-known crooks, and they're looting the treasury. And it's saying a new reading of an old parable. And the old parable is about a priest who, when he sees somebody being robbed, crosses the street in order not to get involved. So this would resonate with readers who knew their biblical proverbs.